Okay, let's dive in. Have you ever found yourself picking up your phone for one specific thing, just one quick check, and then maybe 15 minutes later, you kind of snap out of it, lost in this endless scroll, and you're completely unsure how you even got there? Or, you walk into a room and the reason you went in there just poof, vanished. If that sounds familiar, well, you're definitely not alone. And today we're going on a deep dive to understand why that seems to be happening more and more. Our focus today is this idea, this concept that the book Forgotten by Design, the silent epidemic of digital dementia, explores in really fascinating detail. We'll be unpacking how our, well, hyperconnected world might be subtly eroding our memory, our focus, and even just our ability to be present. But most importantly, we're here to figure out what we can actually do about it, practically, to reclaim our minds. Look, this isn't about ditching technology altogether, not an anti-tech manifesto or anything. It's more like an expedition. Think of this deep dive as a map, maybe a mirror, possibly even a diagnosis, and yeah, ultimately a path to understanding how our minds, these ancient, incredibly sensitive instruments, are now kind of under siege. Our mission here is really to show you why your brain probably isn't broken. It might just be getting reprogrammed.
Yeah. And what's really striking right from the start is this fundamental mismatch you mentioned. Our minds, well, they simply weren't designed to process like 1,000 different stimuli an hour or to constantly flip between videos, ads, texts, headlines, hashtags, you name it, every single minute. Evolution just never prepared us for the infinite scroll.
That's a really powerful point. It does feel like our attention is under siege, doesn't it? So, what's the real insidious mechanic behind that? Are these platforms genuinely designed to keep us almost, well, addicted?
It's definitely not an accident. Attention is, without a doubt, a battlefield. You've got big tech, brands, influencers. They're all aggressively vying for it. And yes, these platforms are literally engineered, not just to, serve you content, but to keep you glued, engaged, and yeah, basically addicted. Just look at the data. The average person apparently taps their phone over 2,600 times a day.
Wow, 2,600 times.
Yeah, checking it roughly every 4.3 minutes. Now, that isn't just casual use, that's dependence. And crucially, it's by design. Think about it. Every single ping, every little red dot, every autoplay video, it's all carefully engineered to hijack our focus. It turns us into what the author vividly calls neurological junkies for novelty.
Neurological junkies for novelty, that phrase really hits home. It implies this almost involuntary pull, right? Even when we know we should probably look away. Is that maybe why when we look at the actual numbers, they're just so stark? Like the average human attention span has apparently plummeted from 12 seconds back in 2000 to just 8 seconds recently. And a goldfish, by comparison, its attention span is 9 seconds. So we're officially less focused than a goldfish.
It really does put things into perspective, doesn't it? And it leads to a deeper, maybe more profound consequence. We seem to be losing the capacity for genuine boredom, for stillness, or even just for being alone with our own thoughts. Our inner world, which used to be this, rich internal landscape. It feels like it's been paved over by feeds and filters and this frictionless design.
Okay, so if our attention is that fragmented, what does that do to something even more fundamental like our memory? The book makes a really compelling case that memory isn't just about, recalling facts. It's deeply tied to who we actually are.
Absolutely. Our stories, they shape our lives, they're our anchors. So when memory starts to fade, well, so does a piece of our identity. The author shares this really unsettling personal story about that exact thing. He was booking a flight, and when the website asked for his date of birth, his fingers just froze, a total blank.
No way.
Yeah, he actually had to open Facebook to find his own birthday. And it wasn't just that incident. He started noticing he was struggling to recall phone numbers, even familiar roads from his childhood, poems he knew by heart back in school. It's an incredibly relatable moment for so many of us, I think.
Definitely.
Like maybe you know a student who can solve really complex equations using Python, but then forgets her exam roll number, or a parent who remembers their Netflix password instantly, but struggles to recall the details of what their child was saying just at dinner.
That really highlights a profound shift, doesn't it, in how we process and hold on to information. The author brings in this fascinating contrast with his 83-year-old grandmother. She had no formal schooling, apparently, but could recite names, birthdays, vivid details for all 12 of her grandchildren. And not because she had some kind of super brain, but simply because, as he puts it, she paid attention. She repeated these stories, these details, until they were, quote, etched into her soul. It really makes you wonder what we're losing when we outsource that whole process.
We've essentially outsourced our internal navigation system.
Mm.
Think about that little wave of panic you feel when your GPS app suddenly dies and you're driving somewhere unfamiliar.
Oh, yeah, I know that feeling.
That anxiety, it really reveals the cost of convenience, doesn't it? We've let that muscle of internal direction atrophy. There was a study in 2017, I think, on London taxi drivers. It showed their hippocampy, that's the brain's memory center,
Hmm.
were significantly more developed than average,
Really? Why?
precisely because they'd memorized thousands of streets, the whole knowledge, without GPS. It's just a clear demonstration of how we lose that mental mapping ability when we automate it away.
That's actually fascinating. It suggests memory isn't just about facts or, directions. It's deeply interwoven with our identity. And it connects not just individuals, but generations too. And, this leads us right into another huge myth, the whole idea of multitasking. Neuroscience is pretty clear on this, isn't it? You're not actually doing two things at once.
You're absolutely right. It's a myth. You're not multitasking. You're just switching your attention back and forth really, really rapidly. And every single switch, it carries what neuroscientists call attention residue. It's like this cognitive smog that accumulates in your brain. It's quite destructive to deep focus.
Cognitive smog. I like that. And often we pride ourselves on being busy, don't we? Like it's a badge of honor. But the book suggests that maybe busyness is frequently just a way to avoid stillness. And by avoiding stillness, we avoid really seeing ourselves. And the consequence of all this constant switching and overstimulation is something I think many of us experience. Brain fog, that feeling, that subtle but persistent haze, forgetting why you walked into a room,
Oh, yeah.
rereading the same paragraph over and over without it sinking in, conversations just slipping from your mind moments later. And it's so important to understand this isn't some kind of personal failing. It's more like a collective symptom of our overstimulated civilization. The author talks about this UX designer, Aditya, who described it as feeling like he was thinking through mist.
Right.
And apparently just a 48-hour screen break brought him this incredible clarity and peace, just 2 days.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, this constant outsourcing of our, let's say, intuition to what the author calls the new oracle, Siri or Google, it is brilliant technology, no doubt. But it's also inherently biased, isn't it? It's trained to serve up ads, not necessarily truth, and it often just confirms the biases we already hold.
Right, the echo chamber effect.
Exactly. The book gives this stark example of a stock analyst in Delhi who apparently lost a significant amount of money
Why?
because he made a big decision based purely on a Reddit thread he read. He essentially outsourced his judgment, his agency, and short-circuited his own gut instinct.
Wow, that's a costly mistake.
It vividly illustrates what the book calls the death of discernment. It weakens our buddhi, that's an old term for the intuitive intelligence that helps you discern truth from noise. And as that analyst found out, that discernment is absolutely essential for critical thinking and, well, for avoiding really costly errors.
That idea of weakened discernment, our booty, that's a really powerful lens to view all this through. And it brings us neatly to this paradox of digital connection, the feeling of being alone together. We sit shoulder to shoulder, maybe in a cafe or at home, faces lit by that blue light, typing messages. Yet so often we feel profoundly alone.
Loneliness seems to wear this digital mask now. You can be surrounded by thousands of virtual connections, followers, friends, but still feel utterly unseen.
Yeah. The author shares this really poignant observation from a birthday dinner. At one point, phones just emerged, right? And for 10 solid minutes, apparently no one spoke. He described the room as turning into a room full of ghosts.
That's chilling. And research actually backs this up. There was a 2018 study that found people spending over 2 hours a day on social media were significantly more likely to report feeling socially isolated.
2 hours, that's not even that much for many people.
Exactly. Digital interaction, while it can be vast, often tends to be quite shallow. We end up exchanging emojis for actual emotions, And this shallowness, it can also extend into what the author calls performative spirituality. You see these archetypes, right? The Instagram sage, the TikTok monk.
Oh yeah, I know what you mean.
Spiritual teachings become just another form of content. Personal growth gets repackaged as personal branding. Creates this weird feeling, what he terms spiritual vertigo, a kind of dizzying sense of disconnect.
Spiritual vertigo. That's interesting. It really captures how our internal landscape is being shaped by these external forces. In this digital age, our dopamine systems are just constantly being hijacked by algorithms, aren't they?
Constantly. It creates this loop of empty craving where the anticipation itself, the potential notification, becomes the reward.
So your nervous system never truly gets to rest.
Precisely. And even things you intend as mindful practices, like meditation, can subtly become performative if you're thinking about sharing it or how it looks. The book also touches on this idea of digital karma, that every action, even just a click or a like online, creates an imprint, a consequence.
Hmm.
And it introduces the Buddhist concept of the six sense gates: eyes, ears, nose, tongue, touch, and the mind itself. Modern design, it argues, hijacks these gates, turning them into leaky gates where our attention, our energy just drains away.
Leaky gates.
Yeah, and that ubiquitous red notification dot. It's described almost like the mind's sixth gate demon, constantly pulling at that mind gate.
Wow. That's a profound framework for understanding how our internal systems are being, well, compromised by external design, often without us even consciously realizing it.
Exactly. It's happening subtly, constantly.
Okay, so after exploring all of this, the attention battlefield, the erosion of memory, the brain fog, this digital isolation, what does it all really mean for us? I mean, are we just becoming human QR codes, scannable, scrollable, but rarely actually present, buffering our souls while our phones load faster than our thoughts?
That's the danger, isn't it? But the book isn't just doom and gloom. It's actually a powerful call to action. It calls it a rebellion of stillness.
Yeah, the author frames stillness not as some passive retreat, but as an active rebellion. Every single time we consciously choose to reclaim our attention, even for a moment, we're reclaiming a vital piece of ourselves, of our soul.
I like that stillness is rebellion.
And the author shares his own experiment. He deleted Instagram for just 1 week.
Just a week. What happened?
He described this profound silence in my head. Less anxiety, much more linear thinking. He had vivid dreams again, and crucially, he found he could read 3 whole chapters of a book without that constant impulse to check his phone.
That's amazing. Just from 1 week off Instagram. It really underscores the immediate impact these small changes can have. It really does.
And the book extends this idea, this need for recalibration, to something else we often neglect in our busy modern lives: sleep. It encourages us to treat sleep not just as, dead time or downtime, but as something almost sacred, a pilgrimage, a source of revelation.
Exactly. But there are real challenges here in our modern context. That blue light from screens, we know it hijacks our melatonin production, messing with our sleep cycles. And sometimes platform algorithms seem almost perfectly timed to spike our cortisol just when we should be winding down.
Right before bed, yeah.
The author actually calls it a digital insomnia epidemic. And this chronic sleep debt, it's not trivial. It leads to mood swings, significant memory loss, creative depletion. The list goes on. The book really champions the power of dreams, too, calling them the brain's original operating system.
The original operating system.
Yeah, essential for reprocessing trauma, gaining insight, even for reinventing our sense of self. Dreams are presented as, like, the backup files of the soul.
Backup files of the soul. That's a beautiful, powerful way to think about sleep and dreaming. And it forces us to rethink our whole relationship with time and productivity too, doesn't it? Our lives are so often shaped by these relentless scheduled pings and notifications rather than our own natural rhythms.
Absolutely. And we can actually draw some wisdom from ancient traditions here. Think about Vedic traditions, for instance.
Yeah.
They divided the day into periods like Brahma Muhurta, Karmakala, Ratri, aligning specific activities with the body's natural energy cycles throughout the day.
And that wasn't just superstition.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Modern chronobiology is increasingly confirming the wisdom of aligning ourselves with natural light cycles, with our inherent energy patterns. And the book shares this really fascinating modern application. This woman, Sahana, experimented with what she called her lunar inbox.
Lunar inbox, what's that?
Instead of just planning her day by tasks on a to-do list, she started planning it by moon phases and her perceived mind states, consciously trying to realign her energy with her intentions for the day.
That's a really innovative, kind of radical approach to managing your day and energy. I like that. So, okay, after digging into all this, the really big question becomes, how can we, you listening right now, how can we actually integrate these profound insights into our daily lives? How do we genuinely choose presence over constant distraction?
Well, the good news, and the book really emphasizes this, is that our brains are incredibly plastic. They're like wet clay, constantly being shaped by our experiences and choices. We can choose conscious neuroplasticity.
We can actually reshape our brains.
Precisely. And the book offers some really practical neural yoga exercises. These are simple tools designed to help recalibrate the human operating system, so to speak. Things like the breath spiral, mudra mapping, sacred geometry flow, theta tune-in, gratitude flash. They were presented as accessible ways to actively engage that neuroplasticity.
Neural yoga.
Yeah,
Interesting.
but the core message underlying all of it is incredibly powerful. The most potent algorithm isn't out there in Silicon Valley. It's the human will. And maybe the most sovereign act you can perform today is simply to feel an emotion, an impulse, without immediately fleeing from it into distraction. Your attention truly is your revolution.
Your attention is your revolution.
Wow. What a powerful thought to anchor this whole exploration. We've
Yeah.
journeyed through how our hyperconnected world is reshaping our minds, our memories, our connections. This deep dive, it really has felt like a portal maybe to remembering some lost parts of ourselves, realizing that our habits, our daily choices, even our seemingly insignificant clicks online, they're not just personal, they're sacred, they're biological, they're even deeply spiritual in a way. So if you're listening and feeling that pull, that urge to reclaim your mind, the book offers a really practical post-book protocol, basically some steps to get you started. What's maybe one of the simplest yet potentially most profound steps someone could take, like right away. Okay, probably the simplest and maybe the most profound is to commit to just one device-free hour every single day. Think of it as your golden hour, a personal temple, no screens allowed, just pure presence with yourself or the world around you. It's about consciously creating that sacred space for your mind.
A golden hour. I love that imagery. It sounds manageable but powerful. And for those maybe feeling really, really tethered, perhaps a slightly bigger reset might be needed.
Indeed. The book suggests the idea of a weekly tech Sabbath. That means 24 full hours completely unplugged, rebooting the soul, as it were. It's definitely a radical act of self-care in our constantly on world, but potentially transformative.
Okay, 24 hours. That's a challenge. What about something maybe more internal? A way to reconnect with ourselves that isn't just about not using tech.
Right. Well, the book suggests trying mirror work once a week. It sounds simple, maybe even a bit odd. Just spend 3 minutes silently looking at yourself in the mirror. No judgment, no criticism, definitely no selfies involved. It's just about seeing you, truly looking at yourself.
Mirror work. Okay, and thinking about our digital interactions themselves, how can we make those perhaps more meaningful, less shallow?
One suggestion is to try messaging someone you care about, but consciously decide not to use any emojis.
No emojis.
Yeah, just use real words. Allow for a bit more vulnerability, maybe a bit more nuance. It shifts the interaction from quick, easy signals towards potentially deeper connection.
That's a lovely challenge, actually. Okay, what about that moment right before we dive into the endless scroll? Is there something we can do then?
Yes, the sacred scroll ritual. Before you open that social media app, just pause for a second. Ask yourself, am I about to nourish myself with this, or am I just trying to numb myself? It's just creating that tiny moment of conscious choice before you dive in.
Nourish or numb? That's a good question to ask. And for those of us feeling totally overwhelmed by digital clutter, emails, photos, apps everywhere.
There's this great concept, inbox zero equals mindful. Yeah. The idea is that by actively decluttering your digital spaces, tackling that overflowing inbox, organizing your photo roll, deleting unused apps, you can actually free up significant mental space. It's like returning your soul from digital exile, allowing your mind to feel more full and present.
Inbox zero, mindful. I need to remember that one. And finally, there's a call to create, right? Not just consume.
Absolutely crucial. Create something, anything at all. Doesn't have to be a masterpiece. Draw something simple, write in a journal, sing a song, maybe even code something if that's your thing. The key is to do it not for the likes, not for external validation, but simply for life itself, for the sheer intrinsic joy of creation.
That feels like a really positive note to start moving towards.
And, the world, as the author notes, really does seem to be in a kind of collective amnesia right now. But you, the listener, you now have a sense of what's been forgotten, what's being eroded. So perhaps the most rebellious, the most helpful thing you can do now is to help someone else remember. Share this message, maybe gift the book, talk about these ideas over dinner, and just make the choice, day by day, to live wide awake.
It really comes down to choice, doesn't it? The choice is always yours, always ours. Will you choose to continue your story with intention, with mindfulness, and with that awareness that ultimately you hold the key to your own happiness, your own presence? The page is blank now, waiting for your first deliberate, truly present chapter.